Marijuana. I've heard great things having to do with medical, and I've had bad things having to do with just about everything else.
Hello there, you awakening wonders. You know, as well as my Rumble content on Stay Free, I participate in this podcast, Actual Friends, with Dave Rubin and Sage Steele. Have a look at this moment that went viral this week.
Is going to reclassify marijuana. Would that send mixed messages that if marijuana is okay, some drugs are okay, but we're trying to clean up crime? How do they go hand in hand?
We're only looking at that. That's early, but somebody reported it, which is fine. We're looking at it. Some people like it, some people hate it. Some people hate the whole concept of marijuana because if it does bad for the children, it does bad for people that are older than children. But we're looking at reclassification, and we'll make a determination over the next few weeks. And that determination hopefully will be the right one. It's a very complicated subject, the subject of marijuana. I've heard great things having to do with medical, and I've had bad things having to do with just about everything else.
I feel that in general, the government has no business intervening in a person's experiments in consciousness. And I suppose when the lines in the culture were more clearly drawn, when on one side there were people that were pro-free speech, pro-civil rights, pro-general permissiveness, and that was regarded as the cultural and social left. I strongly believed in the perspective of someone like Terence McKenna, a brilliant genius, ethnobotanist and psychedelic journeyman who believed that access to these states is pivotal and fundamental for advancing societies and cultures. In my country at the moment, they're doing experiments on DMT, IV experimentation. DMT is a powerful hallucinogen. And the reason that they're experimenting with DMT is because a lot of people who take these psychedelics and hallucinogens, in particular the one I just named, are discovering consistent experience. Vivid yet consistent experiences that sort of suggest an objective ulterior reality. Now, I'm interested in that, of course, for spiritual reasons, because the claims that are made by any of us that have a belief in a spiritual realm and believe that the most powerful level of reality is not received through the senses but through the spirit, i.e. we live by faith and not by sight, we don't conform to the patterns of this world. On that basis, I see the use of substances, consciousness altering substances, is potentially important, not necessarily for everybody, but I think it's one when we're looking at what are going to be the complex solutions to a world that seems increasingly divided and on the precipice of all manner of crises and conflagration. Well, it would seem altering consciousness might be a solution, and finding new ways of looking at reality. So that's one sort of somewhat esoteric perspective, that human beings should have access to their full capacity and should be able to use drugs if they can safely do it. That obviously doesn't include me. I can't safely use drugs. I'm a lunatic. But the other argument is, I don't think the state has got any business in. I believe in minimal interventionism. I think that the role of the state should not be of pedagogy or demagoguery, but simply of the administration of social tasks decreed by a consensus delivered by the electorate. I wouldn't have political leaders grandstanding and offering moral and ethical positions. It would just be, this is when we're collecting your trash. This is when we are concreting over that paving. This is how we're going to protect that particular border, minimize their power and their intervention. So something like, if control of the government is so granular that they get to decide whether or not a substance can be taken by adults, I think that's an indication that what's been normalized is a level of authoritarianism that needs to be radically reviewed, whether it's under a supposed Democrat like Kamala Harris or the current administration. So,
but what about bigger drugs that everyone knows? So, heroin, cocaine. I mean, what is the line where you think, or is it all drugs? You don't think there should be any laws and people can do what they want?
Well, I think there's, that is one way of saying what I believe. Yes, I think there should be zero prohibition, and that these highly highly addictive substances should be regulated from a medical perspective rather than a criminal judicial one.
Wow.
That there are probably some people that can safely take cocaine, and those people shouldn't waste police. Look, the reason is it must be in some way more profitable and beneficial to keep drugs illegal, because if it wasn't, drugs would be legal. I don't believe that the motivations of the state are really ever to protect people. I think they are generally to control people. And if people are helped as an inadvertent consequence of that control, then so be it. But I believe the motivation is always control. And I think that expands beyond administrations. That's my perspective. So I would say this is an easy win. And I understand what you're saying. If you do, like, because my actual personal journey with drugs, Sage, was exactly that. I smoked weed. I'm like, oh, that's good. Let's take acid. I took acid. Oh, that's good. Let's take MDMA. Oh, that's good. Let's take coke. That's good. Let's take heroin and crack. That's exactly how it was for me. But, that gives me these insights. What was I looking for? I was looking for a spiritual experience. I was looking for an anesthetic against the culture that was not telling me that we are sacred beings here to have a holy experience, to experience God in the present moment, to experience God now, not to live listless, pleasure-oriented lives where we are controlled, where our desires are stimulated by the culture, our fears are stimulated by the culture, and we ping between those two poles like hopeless atoms robbed of our personal autonomy.
Rumble Premium is a beautiful way of getting additional content, not just from me, but from Kim Iverson, from Ruben, from Mug Club, from Timcast, some of the world's softest, fluffiest liberals. Rumble Premium gives you an ad-free experience, and you will get access to things that I wouldn't normally show anybody. Yes, that's right. My genitals. There will be no genitals. Whether it's breaking news or real talk or the content that challenges the narrative, Rumble Premium puts you in the front row. Support creators who actually say what they mean and mean what they say, who aren't just, what's it say there? Reading a script to get, what's that? Money. Yeah, you don't need none of that stuff. Go to rumble.com/premium brand and join today. That's rumble.com/premium/brand, because truth shouldn't come from a filter. Remember when the government tried to bring me down? Rumble backed me, because why? They believe in freedom. Mine, yours, everyone's. Join us. Click the link. Thanks for watching the video. Have a look at this one over here, or join us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on Rumble.